Get off.
Go. Hey everybody, how are you doing? I think we're live right now. Welcome to the Crow's Nest. It's Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Central Time, and our special guest today is Jen Greenwald. Hello, Jen. How are you doing today? Double O Jen.
Hello, I'm
Double O
doing
Seven
okay. How are
Jen.
you?
I'm doing good. I'm just talking over you already. Hey, I already see that Frank is on. I see Bob and Julie are on. Dave is on. Hey, did everybody get a chance to see the new graphic um, for the intro? And you'll see the graphic kind of at the bottom here. And I can make it bigger so you can see it. This is the new Crow's Nest graphic that Gene Van Horn drew up for me. So he made one for starting soon. He made one for thanks for watching, and then this is the little one for the show too. Isn't this super cool? It's just neat to have all these talented friends that can come up with this kind of stuff. I literally just said, "Hey Gene, can you draw me some retro kind of theme for the show and based on the Crow's Nest?" And he came up with this on his own, and then we tweaked it a little bit, added the hat, added the little paintbrushes and everything. You'll see that the cult of teal and purple is addressed in the paint on the brushes, and the little crow's nest, and the cool font. I just love it. It's so great. So thank you very much to Gene. You're fantastic.
And to quote Gene, darn tootin' Skippy.
Darn tootin' Skippy. Is that what he said? Yeah, darn tootin' Skippy. Yeah, fantastic. Freaking awesome. Love it. We're going to be working on this main screen here too to kind of still
Mike
with.
Proctor.
We're going to be working on our main screen here too. Right now, it's the the old retro technical version. We're going to make it more consistent with the intro and the outro, but that'll to be developed, I guess. So speaking of talented artists, we have another talented artist joining us today. Her name's Jen Greenwald, and as a good follow-up, well, we had to throw Ron Hawkins in between, but I wanted to get Jen on, especially after the poop van story, to make sure that all the stories were represented, all sides of that story were represented. Our most important one is Jen, because Ron talked about the poop van a little bit, so it's kind of like this reoccurring story, I guess. I don't know. That's been
It comes
continuing
up
on.
often.
It does. It does. That's one of your initial claims to fame was the poop van involvement, right?
I love that
Yeah.
we're kicking this episode off with the poop van. This is great.
But today
I,
we're
I
going to
don't know
get
if
in. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I'm happy with the poop van being my claim to fame.
Oh, okay. We'll claim other. We're going to claim many fames to you today. We're going to assign a lot of fame to you today. Um,
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is typically while we do our little talks, and again, the format of this show is kind of like Paint Club or when we have little artist cons, when we're just sitting, doing our hobby, goofing around, and we'll just have various conversations. So that was kind of like the intent of what we're trying to do here. So I hear somebody typing. Is that you, Justin?
No, that is Jen.
Oh, okay. Well, Jen's typing. Um, oh, she's probably typing comments onto the thing.
She is.
Oh, my version is less interesting. Your version is not less interesting. But anyways, what I was going to do today is I had painted up this little dude a while back, right? And this was just a little project I did on the side, but I was threatening to make a base for him. So the initial thought was, hey, I'll make a base on the show. So prior to this show last week, I started mocking up and thinking about making a base. And then I was just going to kind of play around and kind of plan it out. Well, I got a little carried away and went ahead and built the whole thing and started painting it up. So it's not really good to show how to build a base when it's already done. So I want to show you almost an end result. And then today, while we're talking, I'm going to be working on making a similar style base with some steps going up and a little platform. And the miniatures that are going to go on this little base they're not Reaper miniatures, they're Dwarven Forge. No, Durgan's Forge. Durgan Forge, not Dwarven Forge. Durgan's I don't know, something. And this little, it was a Kickstarter thing that I did, and I really like these little dwarves. I think they're really cool. But they're going to go along on the base as well. So we're going to work on that. And what I'm working with today is my magic ingredient is milliput. Milliput and basically tree bark, right? And that helps create a lot of the bases that I do. And one of the ones that I did last year, which is a similar miniature, same company, a little dwarven dude. It'll be a base that's kind of in between this one, it'll end up being, and this one. A little bit hybrid in between the two. And so we're just going to be, like, I'll show you how I like to do it. And I'll start off with a lot of different bark and whatnot. But back to the milliput. There's all different kinds of milliput. And if you're not careful, you'll order 3 things of the wrong milliput, which is the terracotta milliput. If you order the right stuff the initial time when you're having an order on Amazon and you don't look at the details because you're trying to do 4 things at once and you're like, oh, here's the milliput, I'm just going to order this stuff. And then you end up with this terracotta milliput, which, by the way, I've never used before, but actually works pretty well. That's the way I made all these little chunks and stuff. So you'll see that terracotta ends up looking the color of terracotta, probably why they got that name. But it's a 2-part mix, and you take the blue stuff in the wrapper and the yellow stuff in the wrapper, and you mix it up, and it turns into this light green stuff. And that becomes what you can mix and you can make your crazy bases out of. So we'll go from there, and we'll start goofing around with that. So your claim to fame is nothing to do with any kind of vans or pooping or anything like that, right? What Jen has been kind of this, and I don't want to embarrass her at all. Jen has been this kind of rocket ship in talent, in development, and growing in her craft and growing in her ability over the last few years since I've got to meet her. I mean, how long you kind of started hanging out with Reaper around the first Kickstarter? Is that right? Right around that time?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was after the first Kickstarter.
And that very first Kickstarter was different than the other ones. They did this kind of level, and Gene referenced it, where you could be the super uber Kickstarter supporter, and you could buy in and you can get a all expenses trip paid to the Reaper compound and spend a week with the Reaper peeps. Am I describing it correctly?
Yeah, there were actually 2.
Yeah.
So there was that one, and then they had another level that was come be a VIP at ReaperCon.
Uh-huh.
So I did both of those.
Wow. And you'd obviously painted some before, right?
Oh yeah.
But you had done so my volume is low. Rhonda says, Justin, are you hearing that? Or am I just wasn't clear near the mic?
I think it's because you're not near the mic, because Discord is picking you up pretty well. Make
Okay.
sure, if you could, on your scene there, make sure your mic is boosted as high as it can go.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty damn high. All right,
If
testing.
you have any room, boost it more.
Yeah, I got it all the way up on my OBS stream.
Okay, then I think you need to just probably talk much closer to it if possible, then, and we'll figure it out.
How about this? Is this better?
No.
I'll just.
Gosh.
Is that too much?
That's too much.
Well, I don't trust anything that Bobby Jackson has to say, so.
That's true. Gene did say it was good.
Yeah, let's see. I trust Gene. I don't really trust Bobby Jackson very much. But so, where was I? You did both the I want to come hang out, and then the ReaperCon VIP thing too. Now, when you were at that time, were you painting a lot? Were you painting just for your husband likes to D&D and your friends like to do that? Were you just painting for them, or what were your aspirations at that time? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I was painting a fair bit. I had started painting again a few years beforehand and decided that I wanted to get better. So I started taking classes. I went to Origins. They still had a pretty big art program at the time. Took some classes there. and I had wanted to go to ReaperCon. But you know how classes at ReaperCon are, they sell out like 2 minutes after they open up.
Mm-hmm.
And class registration invariably opened up in the middle of the day while I was at work. So when the VIP options came up with the Kickstarter, well, that was great because then, as a VIP at the con, you could go do whatever classes you want and whatever. So um, I signed up to do that with the specific purpose of coming to take classes and learn from people and improve my painting.
Mm. Did you didn't take any of my classes though, did you?
Yes, I did.
Did you? Which one?
I took one of your crazy color type classes. And I remember this was 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't know what you were calling it then, but it
Yeah.
was, we all had like a little dwarf wizard figure that we were painting, and you were encouraging everybody to use different colors in the shadows.
Uh huh.
I think I still have that dude somewhere.
Was it a good class? Was it like, I wasted my 2 hours here, even though you didn't cost anything? It was like I can't get that time back.
No, it was a good class.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad you got something out of it. I remember you in there now. No.
Sure you do.
But like shortly after that, then you did the ReaperCon thing, and you hung out with us afterwards, and then you like real quickly you were coming in and doing ArtistCon with us, pretty much
Yes.
right away, right?
Yeah.
And that was that kind of okay for me. First time I went to ReaperCon, I just showed up, just went as a general entrant, and didn't know anybody. It was a little, I don't know, a little overwhelmed, a little, I don't know. Some people think that I just have this gregarious personality. I'll just go and talk to anybody. I was a little shy, a little like, oh my God. Did you kind of get that, especially when you came to the first ArtistCon? Because to me, ReaperCon, there's enough other people, but then when I went to my first ArtistCon, I was a little like, holy crap, am I good enough to be here? Kind of thing. So does that make sense? Did you have
Yeah.
any of those kind of feelings or anything?
Well, probably first couple of artist cons that I went to,
Mm-hmm.
I got to go to because I sent email to Ron and said, "Hey, please, pretty please, can I come down to artist con? And I'll pay my own way. It'll be fine." Because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't doing anything for Reaper at that time. I was just coming and hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really feel that nervous about it because I was not under a lot of pressure.
Mm.
It wasn't until, I don't remember if it was the first or second artist con I was at. I don't think it was the first one. It was one, the alley was there too.
Yeah.
And Ron said, "Well, since you're here, paint this mouseling." That was the one where he gave us all a bunch of mouselings to do over the weekend.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I did the samurai one and some thief one. Which one did you end up doing?
I had a little thief guy.
So that ended up being your first credit, your first
Yes.
first professional miniature painted credit.
Yep.
That's awesome. And Reaper has it, right?
Yeah.
Do you think back as like that? Do you think about it often that like that was the first one that you ever did?
No, not really that often.
No, no, because now you're so big time. You've painted a bunch of things for Reaper, and another company, right?
Yes, I have painted more things for Reaper. I don't know about a bunch, but some.
Mm-hmm.
And I've painted some for Dark Sword as well.
Yeah, your Dark Sword pieces are awesome too. Super awesome. The Lizard Man. Is that Lizard Man out, the one that you showed me, or am I tipping something I shouldn't be?
I don't think the most recent one is out yet.
Okay, so no, everybody pretend that I didn't say anything about any Lizard Man. Who knows anything about a Lizard Man? And then so you went from taking classes into going to ReaperCon and starting to teach classes. What was the first class that you started teaching?
So the first class I actually taught was not at a ReaperCon. It was at an ArtistCon, where they did some free short classes, and I just taught a basics. Here's how you prep and do the basics of painting your mini type of class. Because, I think that's a good place to start teaching, because it's basics. It's basics for you, it's basics for the student. It's something that you should be comfortable with.
What
It
did
worked
you
out well.
What did you learn from teaching?
Uh, if you're nervous, don't show it.
That's a good one. That is true. That is very true. Did you learn anything about how you approach that thing, where you actually had to break it down? Because you kind of joked about it on the show, before the show. Yeah, Proctor's all over the place, and Justin said that, and you said, yeah, that's the way he always is. Because I will just do things all over the place, but when I've got to teach something, I've got to take a step back, slow down, and say, okay, now I need to define my process, which is generally all over the place. But I need to make it in a step by step. You're more analytical than I am. Or is that probably safe to say, right?
Yeah.
Was that an easier process for you to kind of break it down? Because you like to craft up handouts and all that stuff, which is just like, it's such a chore for me to do. But does that make sense?
Yeah. I go through, for every class I teach, I do a handout, or if it's a presentation class, I've got all my slides set up. And in the process of doing that, that kind of turns into an outline for the class.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's what I want to talk about. Here's the order that it makes sense to talk about these things in. These are the details I need to be sure to include. And going through that exercise really does help break down, okay, if I'm working on freehand, what am I doing? How am I doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And makes you kind of think it through, which you don't necessarily do when you're just painting.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to then do it, and then I find myself, if I draw up a little outline, it's even hard for me to follow that, to even follow that outline. By the way, somebody in chat asked, they missed probably the beginning, about what milliput I'm using, and it's the standard stuff. It's the red label. Red label. You want to get the red label. Don't get any of the fines or anything. Get the standard. And then be careful when you think that you're ordering the red label. Don't order the terracotta. It's fine. It works. But look for the red outline too on the box. Is probably another safe thing to try to do. The terracotta works good though. And I wanted to kind of show with this thing, with this base. And I wanted to make more of a rocky, ledgy, textured thing. And I used to really rely more so on the general bark. And you saw that I kind of glued this little piece of bark underneath, and I created some more milliput layers on it. And this is where I'm going to make the steps. And this is kind of the start of that. But how I came up with all these little, let's call them slate pieces, I guess, is I took milliput and make a big, huge smear of it, and smoothed it out on I'm pointing to something you can't see. It's off camera. Obviously, that's bad TV. Smeared it on a piece of tile, super thin. See how thin it is? And then when it comes time, and here I took some little impressions, and you can see, here it is right in front of me. You can see there's one of the little crosses there. So I was trying to make some crosses. So this is just an extra piece. And then I'll just take it and break it up, and I can make little pieces. I could do that on screens, probably better, and make little tiny pieces. And there you make a whole mess of them, and then you got all these different sizes to kind of mess with and play with. And when you're doing kind of your basing stuff, especially these kind of things, make more than you think you're going to need, just so you have all these other options to kind of play with, and throw out some additional stuff as well. Now, when it's nice to, when you're doing basing, to maybe try to come up with some little concepts, some little ideas, some little things you can put in there. So this base is going to have my little cleric on top, and he's praying on his little altar up here. Here's the Crusader's shield that he could have carried up there and put it down before he read his book, or his holy book. And then here's a little tombstone as well. And then on this other end is Bob Rodolphi, I believe, sculpted this crow sitting on a sword. So I don't know why I'd want to use a crow, but I thought it might be good to throw it in there. Just something kind of fun. So we talked about, back to Jen, back to the most important person on the show today. I've talked with Rhonda and even some of the sculptors and Gene and Jason and Bobby about influences and like who was, as you were starting to get into this, who were you, who was like your biggest influence? Because I kind of have a thought of who that might be, and it's not me, but I do have a thought of that. But I just kind of wanted to hear from you who you thought, who did you like go, I really like what this person does. I want to try to emulate what they're doing or figure out how they're doing it and make it mine.
I don't know if I really did that a whole lot.
Okay.
So, because when I started painting, it was really before the kinds of resources that are available now were available.
Mm-hmm.
So, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't Twitch, there wasn't, I'm going to go watch this person paint, or I'm going to go be able to see a lot of this person's work. It just wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my early work was just, me and some guides that I found on a listserv somewhere or something, trying to kind of figure it out. When I started going to conventions and taking classes, I could get a little bit more from other people who had been doing more work, but since I was doing it in a volume, it wasn't like I'm going to follow this single person. It's I'm going to go to Origins and take like these 8 classes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a lot of input from a lot of people. Even when I started coming to ReaperCon,
Mm-hmm.
that first ReaperCon, since I had access to whatever classes I felt like going to and all of the artists, I brought my little piece with me and walked around the entire line for feedback. So I don't know that I had a single strongest inspiration. I was really making an effort to get input from a lot of people.
How was running that gauntlet? Was it a little intimidating or whatever? You just wanted to get all this feedback from folks.
I don't know if getting the feedback was intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
I guess talking to everybody was a little intimidating just because I'm an introvert. So going in, I'm just going to go talk to everybody is not really a thing I usually do. But that's separate from the painting.
It is very, I don't know, it's very daunting to go up. And I remember my first artist cons and stuff. God, I've been doing everything off camera. It's a little daunting just to go, all right, I'm going to make I would jokingly call a gauntlet of walking up and down the artist row and talking to people. But when we're able to do another actual face-to-face, real life, real person ReaperCon, for all of you that go, please take time, go up and down the rows and talk to who's ever sitting behind the other side and talk to them. And most of them's going to have their work out. It's really cool to see. I try to do it while I'm there. Go and see everybody that's got their stuff out, all the artists and stuff, just to see what they've been working on. But then, a lot of people will tell me they'll take a class or whatever and say, yeah, I went up and down the artist style, but I was just so, and I don't know, intimidated to talk to somebody and don't. I mean, we're here to try to help out, and having somebody tell you, oh yeah, that's how I do that. Bob Rodolphi, who's watching with Julie right now, I will inevitably at some point of our artist con, we'll be sitting there talking, and I'll ask him some question on how he did it, and he'll explain it, and it'll be one of those, aha, yeah, that's obvious on how you made that, but sometimes it's just someone needs to tell you that. Oh, and Julie did the crow on the sword. Sorry, Julie. I knew it came out of the house of Bob and Julie. Bob did the sword, Julie did the crow. See, they're always tag teaming this, so that's cool. So, yeah, I think that's super important to try to keep pushing yourself and for asking for feedback and stuff. But another thing too is I know you went up and down the row, and I think that's something good too. But it's also I've been kind of pushing this for a while, and I do believe it's important to kind of find a few of those people that you really dig and you really trust and you really feel like you can get good, accurate feedback from, and keep going to them. I think sometimes if you ask too many people for feedback on a particular piece that you've done, you might just get too much, right? And
Yes.
everyone has their own opinion, and you might even get contradictory opinions, right?
Yeah. What I
So,
found the first couple of years when I did that was, I would go down the line and get feedback from everybody. And what I started doing was, well, if there's something where everybody I talk to is pretty much telling me the same thing, then that's a thing I need to do, you know. So you talk to everybody and everybody says, well, it would be better if you put some color in your shadows. Okay, that's something I need to do. But when you get to cases where, you've got a few people telling you to go one direction and other people telling you to go a different direction, that tells me it's starting to get into areas of personal preference or personal style, and then I get to pick.
yeah,
So if I'm getting, different advice or even contradictory advice on a particular thing, okay, cool. That means that those are probably both valid things to do, and I get to pick the one that works for me.
yeah. And just because someone gives you advice on it, even if you totally respect them and think that they're just amazing, you don't have to do it. You don't have to incorporate it the whole way. Make it yours and do it that way. I think is important too. Take that and understand why they're trying to what they're trying to say, but make it yours and don't lose what your joy and how you're creating that effect. If you got to change something because someone else is saying the X, even though you asked them for that, you don't have to necessarily do that. Keep your voice and keep who you are. Does that make sense? Am I rambling again?
Yeah.
I tend to do that. So here's the base right now. We got the standard milliput is what I'm using just to kind of build things up. And I started with this big piece of wood, and maybe some people are like, oh my God, he's burying the whole thing. That's kind of what I'll end up doing. I'll use the sculpture of the wood to kind of give me an overall form, and then I'll just start building up around it and working on it. And building a base, I may get pretty far on the show, but it'll still be something where I'll spend another 3 or 4 hours just tweaking it. Standard milliput has a really long drying time. And if it starts getting a little too hard, I just keep a little water dish. I did it off camera, so I put it on camera. And just do a quick dip, put it down, and knead it a little bit more. And then I'll wipe my hands with paper towel. I used to wear a lot of those little gloves, and since all the COVID stuff's going on, those kind of are hard to find. If you're very sensitive skin, very kind of allergic to things, you might want to wear the gloves. I don't find I need to, but, don't touch your face. It's kind of, we've learned that in COVID times, right? Don't touch your face. Don't touch your face in COVID times. When you're out in public, don't touch your face, especially if you touch somebody else. But if you're using milliput, don't touch your face. It'll just, inflame your cheek a little bit and give you a little bit of a tiny rash. It's not anything bad. It'll go away, but just don't touch your face. But otherwise, it's completely safe. Otherwise, it's completely safe. It's completely
safe, except
Completely
for
safe.
the rashes and skin irritation. And by the way, don't eat it or inhale.
Well, I hope that's obvious, but now that you say that, yes, don't eat it or inhale it. I think that's important to note too. So you'll see that I am taking all my little pieces of milliput and I'm kind of squirting them all out, throwing them all out and spreading them out. So I'm going to create, again, what's going on this is, on this one, I'm going to have this little dude up here, up there. And then I'm going to build out a little kind of flanking side, and he has a little bulldog buddy. So his bulldog buddy is going to be off to the side a little bit. So hopefully that all works out. If not, I'll just scrap it and do it again. And that's another thing too with the basing stuff, is less condense the area, right, Jen? Keep your space as small as possible. Some of the common mistakes or issues I see with new people doing basing, advanced basing, kind of dioramic-ish, interesting basing. They try to make everything too big. Condense your image as much as possible. Push things together. So I'll start off with this very kind of smallish area, like this big around is all I'm starting with, and it builds out a little bit what this is going on. Also, work on thinking about incorporating verticality. That's a word, right? And have some kind of rise going up, have some kind of height, have something kind of higher than the character, lower than the character, and then on the back, and I haven't really planned anything out yet, I'm going to have some kind of, for those that play video games and watch DVDs where they'll go in the after credits, you'll see the Easter eggs and whatnot. I like to refer to that little Easter egg, so having a little crazy something bit going on right there. One thing I have, then I got to figure out where it's going to end up going, and it might go on this point right here, is it comes with this little tiny stone thing that's got a little glyph in it, a little rune, and on that rune is a little crow goes on there. Oops. A little crow goes on there. So I'll probably put that on the very end. I don't know why I'd want to use a crow, but and then there's Durgan's Forge. Durgan, I can't remember the name of it. Neat company. They're out of Spain, I believe. They got some really cool stuff. But so you, we're not going to talk about the poop van. Poop van's already been covered, right? There's nothing else really. Is there anything in the poop van story? Is there anything that has been discussed? You've watched the episodes and the two poop van renditions or summaries or descriptions that has been missed. You're like, oh my God, they're missing the most important thing. Or has the poop van is it all pooped out? Duh. You know what I mean?
I don't think I have anything to add.
Yeah.
I think when Gene told it, was Gene that told it? I think so.
Yeah, Gene told it first.
Yeah, that was a very complete rendition of the tale.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly didn't think it was as bad as they were making out, but then I never had to sit in the wet seats.
Were you in the passenger seat up front?
Yeah.
I never had asked you, but I had always thought, were you at any point where you're like, what did I waste my money on? I flew all the way out here and I'm sitting in a poop van. No?
I have no regrets.
Okay, good. Because if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be talking today.
That is absolutely true.
Now, I want to talk about Paint Pals.
Okay.
Yeah, Paint Pals. How would you describe Paint Pals?
Paint Pals is a small group of close friends in the hobby who can get together to work through hobby stuff. So if I'm working on this piece and I'm really having a problem with it, you can bring it to Paint Pals.
Mm-hmm.
And get advice and direction, or even just encouragement if that's all you really need.
Yeah.
And sometimes non-hobby life things sneak into that too.
Right. Who created Paint Pals?
I don't remember.
It was you. You created Paint Pals. You made our. So in Paint Pals is and I've talked about this before. It's Jen and I and Rhonda and Allie are in it, and it is. I think it was the very first episode or anything, and I've had a couple of people reach out to me too, and Bobby said don't lick it, and I'm assuming that's the milliput. But if you can, find some other folks that you like hanging out with, that you're good friends with, that in the hobby, and share your ideas and share what you're working on and share your problems. You know what I mean? Like, what's your obstacles? And you're trying to create this, and I'm trying to. I've done this for on Paint Pals with them. I've painted something, and it just looks like crap. Just looks like total crap, and I don't know what to do to change it. And you guys have always been really good saying, yeah, it looks like crap, but here's what you can do to fix it, kind of thing. It's very extremely helpful, and it's good to bounce off ideas. Don't work in a vacuum, and just watching videos and everything, get feedback, because there are things that, all of us, but I'll just talk about Rhonda and you and Allie. There's things that you guys will see that I'll never see, and when you're working on a piece, you become so focused on just that thing. You can't see it for what it is sometimes, and it's nice sometimes for other people to look at it and go, no, that looks pretty good. Or did you ever think about, doing X? And no, Bobby, we're not talking about Chicken Express today. Were you around for Chicken Express?
I was not around for Chicken Express.
See, that's why we won't talk. If you would have been around for Chicken Express, we would have talked about it. But I don't feel like talking about Chicken Express. Is still a bad memory for me.
Well, I had my own similar experience down there once that was not Chicken Express related, but was equally non-fun. So just let that go.
Yeah, it's the worst thing. Like when you go on some fun trip, you're going to be around a bunch of friends, and you get under the weather due to circumstances outside your control, because somebody might not have washed their hands or not. That's another, and per Gene, that's another poop story. That's absolutely true. So you kind of came on the scene, and now you're doing stuff for Dark Sword. I haven't really talked about this yet. Now you've worked with two different art directors, basically.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And both of Ron and Jim Ludwig. We're gonna have Jim on one of these days too. I've been trying to get. I'm sure he will come on. He's such a good dude. They're two different approaches and stuff, but they're both at the same time. They're kind of like, hey, I asked you to do this because I like what you paint and like what you do. Is there any noticeable differences between the two, or do you approach anything differently, or you just, hey, I'm Jen and I'm doing Jen?
I don't think I approach them differently. I do think there are differences between working with them. Mm-hmm. Jim always seems to have a pretty strong idea of what he wants.
Yeah.
Or at least what he likes and what he doesn't. And with Ron, there have been times when he definitely had a strong idea of what he wanted, and there have been other times where he's been kind of like, I don't know, do whatever.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, and there's been where sometimes, and he's explained this to me before, Ron has, hey, I know what I kind of wanted, but until you really got going in it, I wasn't really sure of what I really wanted, and now I'm going to explain what I really want. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
that happens.
No, Jason, I was being very careful in asking that loaded question. So yeah, it's interesting. Now this is another loaded question. I think it's this, but I've been wanting to ask this to somebody, and I'll give you my answer after you bravely answer first. Is doing commission work ever take the fun out of painting miniatures?
So it hasn't yet, but I am very careful to avoid doing too much of it.
Yeah.
Because I have a full-time job that is not painting, and painting is my hobby that I do for fun.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing commission work, but if it gets to the point where commission work is really dominating my time over the year, then I don't want to get to that point. So I'm not doing commissions all the time. I do them when I feel like it, and when I've got plenty of free time to do it, and leave it at that.
Yeah, and it is good to have that balance. So, like, what percentage of your total output for the year is commission work? Is it 10%, 20%, and the rest of it's just personal stuff? Or
I think last year, if I were to go back and count, which I could do, but I'm not going to do right now,
yeah,
I think it's somewhere around 5 to 10% probably.
yeah. But you're the Jen Greenwald pieces are hot commodities right now. I have a Jen Greenwald piece, and see,
You do.
I do. You painted this for me.
I
I
did.
I love this. This is so freaking awesome. This is,
Oh, I love that freehand.
isn't it? Look at the cloak. I mean,
That's insane. I
this is
love it.
insane. This is insane. I wish I could take credit for this. It's so good. It's
Yeah, that was a
fantastic.
pain in the butt.
Yeah,
It it almost looks like. Did you use like pastels for the yellow on the flowers and the purple? I guess in the grass there.
those are
No,
real flowers and leaves.
no, that's a product you can get. It's like tufts of grass, except it has, little colored foamy bits on the top to make it look like
Oh,
flowers.
okay.
Hey, shouldn't this show get renamed to "Thrown Under the Bus" by Clever Crow? Who am I throwing under the bus? I haven't thrown anybody under the bus, Rhonda.
A short but heavy bus.
No, no, I haven't
The
thrown
crow bus
any.
line.
I haven't thrown. Yeah, Gene, come up with some graphic where I'm driving a bus. Yeah, and I don't care anything about what Bobby has to say. But no, I'm not throwing anybody under. Who have I thrown under the bus, Jen?
I don't think you've thrown anybody under the bus today, but when you start out your questions with that you'll answer it after I have bravely answered, then it kind of sounds like you're leading into some bus throwing.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I agree with 100% with what you said on the whole balancing the commissions and balancing your private time, or your personal work, I should say. Because again, for me, I'm just like you. I've got my own full-time gig. We were talking about before we came on how for both of us today, real life, real world jobs were a little bit stressful today, and it took take a deep breath to let all that go and to get into this world. So a lot of times, still to this day, this hobby is a massive escape for me. Just to get away from the pressures of having to be in the corporate world and do those kind of things, and do what I really enjoy is dork stuff. But I wanted to say fun the entire time. So there has been a few commission pieces over the year that I've taken, and over the years that I've taken, and I'll be like, oh my God, what did I decide to do this? And it started off fun, and then it wasn't anything, and I'm being 100% honest here. It wasn't had absolutely nothing to do with the sculpt itself. It was more of my attitude and how I was painting the miniature at that time. But there have been ones that I'm like, oh my God, when is this going to finish? When is this going to end? I'm ready for it to be over with, And I get that even
Yeah,
with my personal projects too.
yeah, same here. And on both counts, sometimes that happens with a commission piece, and sometimes it happens with just a thing that I've been working on. And after a while, I'm going, "Oh my God, why is this thing still here?"
Yeah, I mean, I could literally just go to my shelf and find something that's still in the middle of process that's looking good. I just can't get to finish it. I'll sit down and I'll start working on it, and I have lost my motivation to finish it, and
Yeah,
it takes me sometimes to come back and finish something. So,
I I think that happened to me last. You remember that Gorma that I did a while back, the one that was blue and orange and purple?
yeah, I do. That was cool. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that took forever because after a while it was like this thing is huge and I'm sick of doing it.
yeah. Well, yeah, let's talk about that because scale, right?
Hmm.
So Reaper's majority of stuff is, 28, 30 millimeter kind of people and whatnot and characters, and that's maybe a bulk of stuff what we paint. But over the last few years, you've been painting a lot of larger scale busts and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um, is what drives you to that just because of it's really interesting, it's really cool, or you were like, okay, this is a challenge, I want to paint something bigger, or a little of both?
Little of both. It
Uh-huh.
started out as well, I want to improve. Part of that is I want to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought some larger scale pieces, and I bought some larger and some busts, um, for the purpose of, well, I'm going to try something different. How does that work? And it is
Mm-hmm.
different because, you know, blending suddenly becomes, if you're going to be blending, it suddenly becomes super important and super visible, because instead of the face being, an eighth of an inch, it's 5 times that or more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a few and learned some stuff from that, and also found that, especially since I'm old now and can't see as well, um, having the larger pieces to work on is nice because, well, I can see it better.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you are not the first one on this show that has mentioned that. It's come from Bobby, and it's come from uh, Gene and Rhonda and myself too. Yeah. Sometimes I do like working on the bigger things because it's easier to see them.
Hmm.
It's a little. I don't have to pull out the optivisor and be focusing on these little tiny eyes. Um,
If Have you found that after working on the larger scale piece and then going back to a 28 or 32 millimeter, suddenly it's like, oh, this is so much easier. I don't have to blend hardly anything.
yes. Oh my God, so much. I was doing so many larger scale pieces that I was kind of losing a little mojo or losing a little motivation to keep going.
Hmm.
And then I was like, all right. And that is where I started painting just some more of the smaller characters and this little crusader guy. But I painted this guy over like the Christmas break or anything, just goofing around, saying I'm just going to practice some non-metal metals and doing stuff. But no, I totally agree with you. I think it's good for your skills to jump back and forth. Take that leap into that bigger bust piece, right? Or a bigger, larger monster and let go. And you don't necessarily have to pop those, you have to blend a lot better or blend more, but you're bigger it is, maybe you don't have to work on your contrast as much, right? But you get smaller. So there's gives and takes, but when you go back and forth, one way or the other, it ups your game, and part of that is doing more miniatures, but it also ups your game. So let's see, am I missing anything now? Oppressed by my own, help me, being oppressed by my own hobby. I don't think that's necessarily true. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of I asked some of these questions with Jen is because we've had these conversations before on, how you feeling about this and are you ready to quit? And we'll just say that in our little paintball group. I'm so tired of this piece. I want to move on. And I know the sculptors feel that way sometimes too. It's like, I just want to get this done so I can go on to something else. I like a lot of times, and I wanted to see what you think. I like sometimes I find the start of a process a lot. Not that the end isn't fun and it's nice to get it all done, but to me, a lot of times the beginning process is really the most exciting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you're starting out, it's brand new and it's full of potential, and you have great ideas for how awesome it's going to turn out. And then you get about halfway through and it's not working, and yeah, that's when the motivation goes.
Yeah, you haven't fucked it up yet. It's still a perfect idea in your mind, and you haven't realized how flawed your idea was, and how
Yes.
you have to rework it. Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So
That's exactly how that works.
yeah, so there's kind of my little platform right now. It's coming along. What do you think?
Looks good.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there, and it just takes on this. You can make all these little steps, and you can be done with it, or I'll take a little fine point and take some little pieces and I'll kind of work them in as they're kind of rubble. And that'll just add another layer of complexity to them. And the milliput once it hardens, will just suck it all in. And the nice thing about milliput, and I've seen people use green stuff for this. I don't know, cost per volume or whatever. I've always thought, I guess, for whatever reason, that milliput was cheaper than green stuff. But the neat thing about milliput is after it hardens, and I got a hard piece right here. This is all completely dry. You can come in and you can use your knife and you can carve it up, and it acts more like stone. With green stuff, it's a little more rubbery, so it's hard to do that with. So that's why I like the milliput substance a little bit. Let me see if we're missing anything. Oh yeah, well, Bob and Julie are still using sculpting tiny things, but they both sculpt big things as well. Like some of Julie's dragons are massive as well, unless I'm missing what the point of the conversation is. So, no ReaperCon this year. Are you going to be doing any of the Reaper online, teaching any classes or anything like that? Have you worked out the details with that?
That is still TBD.
Okay. Just because of internet speed or time
Yeah.
or yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna work with her on it because I think I kind of gave everyone the minimum general requirements, but any of that's kind of negotiable based on consistency. So there's a
Okay.
lot. There's too many factors to just completely count it out unless you strike out on so many categories that it's just impossible. But I
Okay.
don't think that's the case. So.
Okay. Is there anything? Have we missed anything in the chat that we need to be paying attention to, Justin?
No, it's been primarily Mr. Weeby and Rhonda with actual feedback, and Weeby with the trolling.
Yeah, yeah, and we be saying
Pretty much. Oh, apparently you're supposed to answer your phone. Whoever's phone was vibrating a minute ago.
That's not me.
Poor Bobby.
That's not me. Was that you, Jen?
No, not me.
Huh. No, mine's on vibrate, so I don't know what that was. That has to be, unless somebody else is pirating our line.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know what the vibrating was. I heard it though.
I did too. I just thought it was Jen's phone. I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't want to, upset the guest.
Yeah, I'm working on answering your email, Rhonda. I'm sorry. You're the only one to basically send me a very well thought out, well articulated essay that honestly deserves more than just a couple of lines of a response.
What, Rhonda? Type?
Yeah.
What, Rhonda use her words?
Rhonda is very well spoken. Let's put it that way.
What, Rhonda over communicate with 1,000 words when it could be 10? What? In her writing? We joked about that on the thing with her blogs. They're so amazing, and I've learned so much just from reading her blogs. And I do actually honestly read them, even though I joke that I don't. They're very informative. So
under the bus, Rhonda.
I know, right? All right.
But I will be responding likely today to your email, Rhonda.
Okay. What did she want?
She was talking about the requirements and kind of what would be optimal. To TLDR it, it's kind of she wants to be well informed, and I completely understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like, yeah, I'll go into it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Do you have? No, I don't have any of that, but I'll go into it. Let's go. We'll work it out after the fact.
Well, I should be able to do it, right? Since we've been doing the show.
In your circumstance, yes.
Okay.
It's really our requirements right now are pretty simple. We don't even require that you use any streaming software. You basically just need a document camera and a webcam and a stable internet connection to make it simple. And a computer that isn't 10 years old, more or less.
Jen, did you want to, if you can work out all the details, which I'm assuming you will, let's just say you do, what's some of the topics that you were considering? Not that you have to stick to them. You can always bail on them and do something else, but what were you thinking about?
No, I was going to do the same class that I would have done at in-person ReaperCon this year,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I taught it twice last year. It's a class about contrast,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a presentation discussion, so there's no, it would not have been a hands-on class at live ReaperCon, and for doing it virtually, it'd be a, hey, here's my shared desktop, now let's look at this presentation type of thing online. But it goes through, okay, if you've been told you need more contrast, because everybody gets told they need more contrast.
Right.
Here's what that means. Here's different kinds of contrast. here's examples of what they look like and the difference that it makes.
Okay. Cool. And what can you give a little teaser on, like, what's your go-to on helping people with contrast? Because we've talked about that, and that's kind of a constant theme on the show a little bit, is talking about what the contrast. What's your feedback for folks?
Well, I don't know if I have a single go-to other than, I mean, for years, I and probably everybody else was told, higher highlights, deeper shadows,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine as far as it goes, but it seems to me that it's very incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
So once you start introducing the idea of, well, put color in your shadows, like one of the things that I've got is I did the same figure with, he's got like a green cloak, and that was all I painted was the green cloak. And
Mm-hmm.
I've got one version where he's got darker green shadows and kind of lighter green highlights, and then much darker green shadows and much lighter green highlights, and then purple shadows and yellow highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And you just set them up next to each other, and it displays, very well, what the difference is. And if you're doing the first one, maybe you should think about doing the second. And if you're doing the second one, maybe you should think about doing the third.
Hey, Justin.
Yes.
Gene had a question on what are we giving away today?
We're not.
Yeah, I'm not going to give anything
Oh,
away.
speaking of giving away, though, that does remind me.
Yeah.
We are going to be giving away all of Proctor's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Hashtag kitchen in chat now.
Hashtag COVID kitchen. That's never going to get finished. It still hasn't been finished. It's a 6 to 8 week process, and we are in week 13. We're in week 13 right now. So.
But with that being said, thank you, Troll Lord, for the raid. Remember when we talked about after the show this last Friday when we were going to send you guys some books?
Yeah.
Well, I was up at the shop yesterday, and I was luckily Bill was there, so I kind of touched base with him since he's the inventory person.
Yeah.
And of course, Ron is still on board. I
Cool.
told him that all of the artists wanted a complete and absolute exhaustive set of everything,
Right.
and he rolled his eyes. So
Right.
I guess that's a
yes.
compliance, right?
That's a yes.
Yeah.
That's a total yes. I've seen when I've asked him a question and he's rolled his eyes. I've always taken that as a yes and proceeded forward. So
Yeah,
I think
checks
you
out
should
to
do the
me.
same. Yeah, it checks out to me too. Oh, perfect.
A whole library. Bobby Jackson's correct.
Yeah.
But anyway, you guys will hear pretty quick as soon as I can get a hold of Bill.
Cool.
And actually make sure I have, because I don't want to send like two of you a book and then
Yeah.
we got to get them ordered and in, so it could be a hot minute.
I don't need a DM guide.
No, I wasn't gonna give anyone a DM guide.
No.
That means you, Bobby.
Yeah. Especially Bobby.
I'm sure as hell not giving you guys a monster manual.
I want a monster manual. I need it not for the D&D. I need it for painting reference.
Jen, you like D&D, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in your experience with D&D, don't you think that as a player you probably shouldn't own a monster manual to, maybe abuse if your name is especially Proctor and you know that you're going to abuse it? So you roll and you go, oh, I got a 15, but that hits. And then Frank goes, well, okay.
No, I haven't done that.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
for starters, you're assuming that the monster manual is some sort of binding arrangement on a DM, which it is not.
That is
Ooh.
fair. You're correct. That is 100% correct.
Jen lays the smack down. Good, go, Jen. Keep going.
Secondly, it's not necessarily true in this case, but a lot of people may play and also game master, in which case you're gonna have them all. So I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world if a player owns a monster manual. If they do and they start to,
I guess.
Sorry, what was that?
I said I guess I'm just against Proctor having one. Specifically Proctor.
Oh. Wow. Oh well. I guess it's time for me to get run over by the bus for a change.
And the bus loops around.
Yeah, anyway. The bus loops around.
Well, the other thing is with Proctor and his attention span, all you have to do is avoid using any monsters that have names starting with A.
Oh, I actually laughed really, really hard out loud as soon as you said that. Oh
Yes.
boy, that's golden. You know what? Sold. Jen, that reason
Yep.
alone, I'll give him one.
Yeah. And Rhonda said it. I need it for the pictures because I paint so many of them. Yeah, I need them. Oh, speaking of that, I finished up something else that I've been kind of working on and off and on about. So here's the basilisk from Bones 5, sculpted by Kevin Williams. And I just finished them up over the weekend. What do you think?
That
Looks
is really
good.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the definition of each scale. Is that
Yeah.
from lining? I don't know anything about painting. Is that
Well,
lining?
the top part is Kevin did sculpt a lot of the texture to it, but yeah, there's lining in between each one of these, and there's lining in between horizontally as well. And
Holy
and
crap!
then picking that out. It's a little out of focus. There's kind of in focus there. So, and then worked on his eyes a little bit more to give it's a crappy image to give him a little more lizard eyes because Ron was giving me art direction on the eyeballs. He wasn't liking what I had initially. And then just a lot of my dotted texture approach on the legs since there are 8 of them. So, yeah.
That is a lot of leg.
There's a lot of legs. So yeah. So he's kind of done. I just gotta get around taking photos of him. But he was a blast to paint. I don't know what part of the Kickstarter he's in, whether he was in the core set or he was an add-on or whatever. But he's pretty badass. And he is fairly good size. Here's the Justicar next to him. So he's pretty good size miniature. Pretty badass. So yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah, Kevin Williams did a fantastic job on this guy. He's so cool. So let's see. It's 5:00.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, are you at a reasonable stopping point with your milliput and your absolute mess there? It looks like an Ed-sized mess you got there.
Yeah, I'll have to clean it up. But here's kind of the start of the base, and I was trying to make a little platform for the bulldog. So he'll kind of go up there, and then I haven't popped this guy off his little base yet, but he'll go up here somewhere, right?
I know it's not done, but I can't help but observe that this looks kind of like arts and crafts time right now from a first grade class.
It does, especially first grade, maybe kindergarten. But here's the thing. Here's my other little tip on basing and stuff. You've been painting. It's like, oh, I'm just kind of a little overwhelmed by painting, and you maybe have lost a little motivation to paint. Make a base. Just go crazy, get some milliput, get a bunch of parts together, and just start constructing stuff together. It gives you're still in the hobby, you're still learning things, but also it gives you just a different part of the hobby, a different little aspect you can explore. And it's a lot of fun. And this is the messy part. And like even, Jen, you can add on to this as well. There's sometimes even when you're painting a miniature that you're in the crap stage, right? And you think it's not. And yeah, but this is the crap stage. Know that it will come out. And it's even when you're painting or you're making a base or whatever, it should not. I don't think of any piece I can think I've ever did where the whole time it looked badass, right? It goes through a crap phase before it could become perfect, and you got to play it back and forth. And when I finish this, it may be completely different. I may change some of the steps. They're a little too uniform right now. I want to try to break up some of the bottom steps here a little bit more and wear them a little bit more. So, Jen, did you have anything that you wanted to give? This is our pub time where we all talk about the stuff that we're pubbing. Okay, that was a phone right there vibrating. That wasn't me. That was over the speakers.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know.
What was that?
Yeah, somebody sent me a text, that's all.
Okay. All right. Is there anything you want to be pubbing? Anything that you're going to be involved with, working on, whatever? No?
Not really. I don't have a lot of public stuff. I do have a blog page that I update occasionally, but that's about it.
Yeah, what's the name of your blog page? for everybody?
If you Google Mini Painter Jen, you'll find it.
Okay, cool. And what was the most recent thing that you did on there?
So I've been so what I do, it's not like Rhonda's blog where you can find actual like useful information. I just periodically post pictures of, this is what I worked on today.
Uh-huh.
So I posted yesterday the things that I'm working on right now, which are a little gladiator dude from Arena Rex and a display base for some game pieces that I painted for a friend of mine a while ago.
Okay. Cool. And you do a lot, and I think it's really cool, and I don't do this because I'm maybe too selfish or too lazy. You paint a lot for your friends, right? Giveaways at Christmas and whatever for your gamer friends and whatnot, right?
I do.
I don't do enough of that. I probably should. That's pretty selfish of me, I think. Oh well. So yeah, we're a little bit over time. Justin, you want to start prepping us for a raid of somebody?
Yes, I can.
And while you're doing that, thank you so much, Jen, for being on the show. It was a lot of fun. Another good. I mean, all I've had is really good friends on, and Jen, you're definitely part of that group as well. We didn't mention the photo of Ripley, so I feel a little remiss that we didn't even talk about Ripley. And you can't even see your name. There we go. And there's Ripley.
Yep.
Ripley the burner. Such a sweet, cute dog that I'll never probably get to meet, but awesome. Let's see, what do we got going on? Things to pub to. You can check out my Facebook page, and I've got a Instagram as well. We play D&D every other Friday night. We just played last Friday, so we'll play again, not this Friday, but the following one. And next week, we're going to be having another painter on, another fantastic painter, Erin Hartwell, Corporea. She agreed last week to be on the show too, so I'm super excited about that. Hopefully we'll have something to talk about. Yeah, hashtag bus Gene and Jason and Gene and Bobby and Jason and Rhonda. But yeah, it'll be cool to have Erin on too. So, but I think that's all. Everybody stay safe. COVID's still around. Don't go touching strange people and then touching your face. Just try to not touch people in general unless you know where they've been or if they're clean. And don't touch your face, and just stay healthy and be safe out there. Are you ready to roll?
It looks as if the one I had set up, they went offline. So now I'm kind of re-looking at what we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, hold on. I think I found one.
Okay. And we're gonna go out at the stream ending, and I got another kick-ass design, altered design, by Gene Van Horn that we're gonna leave the show with. So, big shout out to Gene again for all the new artwork this week. And if you didn't see it in the very beginning, you'll see it at the end, but let me show it off one more time. I asked Gene to come up with some kind of crow's nest artwork, and this is what his awesome brain came up with. I love it. It's so fantastic. The little crow, he's got his, I'm going to blow up even bigger so you can see it. He's got a little top hat like my art that Izzy drew, the little brushes, and you got the teal and purple, the Colta teal and purple, the little microphone, which I'm not close enough to right now, and my headphones too, I just think it's so cool. So we'll put it back where it was, sort of. So yeah, that's it.
All right.
Oh, hey,
I got a read set up for us.
Cool. Hey, Derek, how are you, buddy? I didn't see you on earlier. Thanks for joining. But yeah, we're out of here. So I'll just roll to. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great week. Be safe, and see you next Tuesday. Thanks everybody for joining. It's a lot of fun. Take care. Bye-bye.
Don't forget, Proctor. Do you want to tell them about those coming up this week?
Tell them about.
I'll let you do the honors.
About what?
About the shows coming up this week.
Oh yeah, there's other things on the Reaper Twitch. So.
It's this.
There's
Go ahead, Proctor. Go ahead.
Okay, let's see if I can remember. There's Anne's show on every single day of the week, right? Like 3 or 4 times a day. No, it's Monday through Friday. Anne has a show, and I forget exactly at what time. It kind of fluctuates. Is it 10 or 11?
It is at 11:30 Central Time.
Yeah, that's what I said.
9:30 for her.
Yeah, 11:30 Central Time is what I said. And then so Anne's great. She's a fantastic painter. Knows so much about painting and colors, and she, as everybody knows, she mixed all the paints back in the day, not too long ago. So that's a great show. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we don't really do anything right now, right? Because that's all the meetings for ReaperCon Live, whatever that's being called now. Then on Thursdays, Anne's back for some more Anness at 11:30. Then we jump into Painting Platinum with Sadie, right? And
Correct.
that is roughly 2:00-ish.
3:00.
Yeah, 2:00 Mountain Time, right? That's why I said that.
Perfect. Yes.
And then at 6 p.m. Central Time, we have Reaper Live, the little-known show called Reaper Live, right?
Yes. Very little known.
That's good. That's good. And then that's it for Thursdays, and then on Fridays there's this Ann person back again at 11:30. Then we have Reaperland, and Reaperland starts at 3 Central.
Correct.
I got that right? Awesome.
Yes.
And is there a Bones 5 update this week?
This week, actually, I think there is this week.
Yeah.
And no episode of Reaper Errant, which is every other week.
That's really disappointing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is our D&D show. People love it. So
I love it. I think it's great. I have so much fun. And we did good last week. Nobody died, and we got to kill things.
You're right.
Yeah. So did I get everything? Oh, and then we get back to Monday, and I don't ever want to skip over Josh. Josh has Miniature Mondays on, conveniently enough, he does Miniature Mondays on Monday.
Absolutely.
And that is at 2?
Yes.
That's changed,
Well,
right?
It's 2 for you, 3 for us.
Okay. 3 p.m. Central. It's a good show. It is. He does a lot of cool stuff. He does his paint kits, and he's painting a bunch of things, something different every week. Lots of good tips and tricks on that as well. So go check that out too. So, and then next Tuesday, the fastest growing, most popular show is Crow's Nest, and we're going to even reach new heights next week with Aaron Hartwell as our guest.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Derek and Bob and Julie, I'm going to be reaching out to you because I'd like you guys to be on the show. I keep mentioning it, but I want you guys to be on the show. If for any reason you don't, you just text me and say, F off. I don't want to be on your show. So just let me know. Cool? All right. Now we're going to stream ending, and so see you guys. Take care.
Thank you guys very much. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you again, Jen, for coming out.
All right. Thanks. Jen. Bye-bye. Bait pal.